The twin suns of Varix 9 burned through the thick red dust, painting the alien arena in colors of war. Tens of thousands of creatures from every corner of the galaxy filled the stands, chanting the same name over and over. Warlord Krathos. The alien champion stood at the center of the colossal arena, his silver scales gleaming like molten steel. Every breath from his massive chest carried arrogance. Today was not just another spectacle. It was meant to prove that no human could survive a galactic duel. The humans had joined the Interstellar Alliance only recently, and most aliens still called them primitive animals. Krathos raised one clawed hand. The ground split open with a hiss, and a huge serpent rose from the pit. Its body was longer than 10 tanks, its eyes glowing blue like burning plasma. The crowd trembled. The serpent hissed once, and the sound shook the arena walls. Across the sands, a single gate opened. Out walked a human soldier in light armor, dust clinging to his boots. He wasn't tall by alien standards, but there was something different in the way he moved. Calm, unshaken. In his left hand, he carried a leash. On the other end of it trotted a small creature with black and white fur, eyes sharp like twin blades. The arena burst into laughter. Krathos sneered. "This is what humanity brings? A rodent?" The human didn't answer. He knelt beside his companion and whispered a few quiet words. The honey badger's nose twitched. Its fur bristled, as if the air itself had challenged it. The serpent lunged first, a flash of speed, fangs striking down like thunder. The human dove aside, dust exploding around him. The honey badger didn't move away. It charged straight toward the serpent. Its claws tore through scales that had resisted plasma fire. The serpent recoiled with a screech that silenced the crowd. No one understood what they were seeing. The tiny earth creature moved like a storm, fearless and unstoppable. It bit into the serpent's neck, clinging as the monster thrashed. Every snap of its jaws left glowing scars across alien flesh. Krathos roared, commanding the serpent to crush it, but the honey badger only growled louder. When the serpent tried to coil around it, the badger bit straight through the muscle and kept attacking. The human stood still, watching, his face unreadable. Minutes passed. The serpent's movements slowed, its tail dragging through the sand. With one last cry, it collapsed, trembling. The honey badger climbed onto its head and snarled at the silent audience. The laughter was gone. Every eye in the arena now looked at the human and his small companion. And for the first time, the galaxy felt something new, fear. The human called softly, "Come on, buddy." The honey badger patted back. Stained with alien blood, still glaring at the stunned warlord, Krathos's claws clenched around his weapon. This wasn't over. The human had embarrassed him before all of Varix 9, and such shame could only end in war. As the crowd erupted in confusion, the human turned his gaze toward the high seats of the warlords. His calm eyes met theirs. Eyes that carried the quiet message every alien would soon learn. Never underestimate Earth. The arena floor was stained with the serpent's glowing blood. The smell of scorched sand and burnt metal hung in the air as the silence stretched. Every alien eye followed the human, who now stood calmly in the middle, dust swirling around his boots. His name was Captain Ryan Holt, one of the few humans allowed to represent Earth in the galactic trials. Warlord Krathos's fangs clenched. The veins on his scaled neck pulsed blue with fury. He had promised his people that humans would kneel before their strength, that today would prove Earth's weakness. Now his serpent, a beast that had won every match, lay motionless at the human's feet. The warlord raised his hand, and the sky screens around the arena flickered. The voice of the galactic chancellor boomed through the speakers. Trial concluded. "Winner, human combatant!" Half the audience erupted in disbelief. The other half stared in stunned awe. But Krathos didn't bow. He stepped forward, eyes glowing brighter than plasma fire. "This isn't over, human. You cheated the gods of war." Ryan turned slightly, his tone quiet but sharp. "No, I just trusted something stronger than your gods." The honey badger growled beside him, its small frame still trembling with battle energy. Every alien within earshot instinctively took a step back. The creature wasn't just an animal, it was raw defiance made flesh. Kratos roared in rage, slamming his clawed hand into the arena floor. The ground cracked. Soldiers rushed in, armored and armed with plasma rifles, circling the human. The audience gasped as energy shields flared around the edges of the arena, trapping them inside. The Chancellor's voice shouted again, "Stand down, Kratos!" The trial is sacred, but Kratos ignored it. No human walks out alive. The first soldier fired. Blue plasma streaked across the sand. Ryan rolled aside, the beam slicing a crater where he'd stood. He fired his wrist blaster once, clean, precise, and the attacker's weapon exploded. Before the others could react, the honey badger darted forward like a living missile. It leapt onto a soldier's leg and bit through armor with impossible strength. Screams filled the air. Ryan moved fast, ducking and weaving, his movements sharp and deliberate. He wasn't just fighting to survive, he was making a statement. The more they fired, the more chaos spread, until the arena became a storm of light and fury. One of the alien elites tried to trap the honey badger under an energy net. The creature tore through it as if it were paper, its claws sparking against metal. It lunged, ripping the alien's chest plate open. The crowd, horrified and mesmerized, began to chant. Not Kratos' name this time, but a single word that echoed across the arena. Human. Ryan finally reached the edge of the arena wall. His voice carried through the storm. "You wanted a show, Warlord. You got one. But the next time you challenge Earth, bring something stronger than a snake." Kratos' snarl twisted into something darker. "You think this is about one battle? You've started a war!" He slammed his hand onto a control panel embedded in his armor. Alarms wailed through the city above. The entire arena trembled as warships uncloaked in the sky, their hulls marked with the sigil of the Warlord clans. Ryan looked up. His jaw tightened. "Then I guess the galaxy's about to meet the Badger again." He lifted his hand, signaling a small drone hovering near the gate. The force field flickered. Dust whipped around as the honey badger growled, its eyes locking on the alien warships above. Somewhere deep inside the crowd, a terrified alien whispered, "The human didn't bring a pet. He brought a weapon." And as the arena shook from the rising thunder of engines and roaring beasts, everyone finally understood. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before, the rise of humanity's wrath. The city of Varex 9 burned beneath twin suns. What had begun as a duel in the arena was now a planet-wide crisis. Alarms echoed through the metal towers, and the sky was alive with streaks of blue plasma. The Warlord's fleet had taken to the air, dozens of warships circling like vultures, their cannons glowing as they prepared to strike. Captain Ryan Holt sprinted through the broken corridors below the arena, his honey badger keeping pace beside him. The little creature was blood-spattered but unhurt, still growling with that low, deadly rumble that sent shivers even down Ryan's spine. He tapped his communicator. "Command, this is Holt. The Warlord broke the treaty. I'm pinned under the arena complex. I need extraction and orbital clearance." Static answered him. Then a distorted voice. "Copy that, Captain. Fleet Command authorizes response. Stand by for thunder." Ryan smiled grimly. "That's what I wanted to hear." Above, Kratos stood on his warship's command bridge, watching the chaos unfold. His voice boomed across the comm network. "Bring me the human's head, and capture that beast alive. I want to see what power drives it." His soldiers obeyed, flooding the city streets. Massive hover tanks rolled through the dust while drones scoured the ruins. But they didn't know that Ryan was already moving toward the power station beneath the arena, a maze of glowing conduits and unstable energy cores. Crouched beside a reactor conduit and began rerouting its systems. His plan wasn't survival, it was disruption. If he couldn't escape, he'd make sure Kratos remembered this day forever. The honey badger prowled ahead, ears twitching. The sound of alien boots echoed down the tunnel. Ryan whispered, "Go quiet." It didn't. It charged. The first alien squad barely saw it coming. A blur of claws and teeth ripped through armor like paper. By the time Ryan aimed his rifle, the corridor was already clear. The honey badger shook off the dust, eyes glowing from the reactor light. "Good work, partner," Ryan muttered, stepping past the wreckage. Moments later, a shadow filled the tunnel entrance. Kratos himself descended from above, his armor humming with energy. The sight of him up close was like facing a living storm, towering, cruel, eyes burning with fury. "You could have accepted defeat," Kratos hissed. "Instead, you insulted me before my people." Ryan aimed his rifle. "Guess I'm not great with diplomacy." The warlord raised a plasma blade that crackled with purple lightning. The air shook as the two clashed. Ryan rolled, firing bursts into Kratos' armor joints. Sparks flew. The warlord swung his blade, slicing through the metal floor, missing Ryan by inches. The honey badger leapt onto Kratos' back, biting deep into the armor's energy lines. Kratos roared, spinning wildly, smashing walls and consoles. The reactor's glow intensified as conduits ruptured. Energy flares lit the tunnel in flashing blue light. Ryan knew he had seconds. He yanked the emergency release on the reactor core and shouted, "Time to go!" He grabbed the honey badger as the energy surged. They sprinted through the crumbling corridor. Behind them, Kratos' screams were swallowed by the explosion. The shockwave ripped through the arena, tearing the ceiling apart and throwing fire into the sky. Outside, alien warships scattered as a column of white light rose from the city center. The blast knocked half the fleet out of orbit. From the void above, Earth's fleet finally arrived. Sleek black destroyers dropping through the clouds. Ryan stood on the ridge of the burning arena, the honey badger beside him, both covered in ash and dust. He stared up at the descending ships and whispered, "Took you long enough?" The honey badger snorted. And for the first time that day, Ryan laughed. But far above, on a distant command ship, Kratos still lived. His armor was cracked, his pride shattered, yet his hatred burned hotter than ever. He watched the human's image on a flickering screen and swore a vow that shook his crew to silence. "This war isn't over," he growled. "It has just begun, and somewhere deep in the galaxy, the first great human war was about to start, born not from conquest, but from one man, one beast, and one unforgettable act of defiance." The sky above Varexheim turned black with warships. The once bright twin suns were hidden behind the shadow of fleets gathering for destruction. Energy cannons charged, streaks of plasma cut through the clouds, and explosions painted the heavens with fire. From the command bridge of the USS Horizon, Captain Ryan Holt watched the chaos unfold. His armor was scorched, his voice rough from smoke, but his eyes were steady. The honey badger sat near his boots, restless and glaring at the holographic display of enemy ships. "Fleet formation complete," his second officer reported. "Alien Armada counts over 80 vessels. They're locking weapons," Ryan nodded. "Good. Let them." The alien flagship appeared on the display, a monstrous vessel shaped like a serpent's head, thrusters glowing like venomous eyes. Warlord Kratos had survived, and his voice thundered across all open frequencies. "Human, you destroyed my arena, my soldiers, my pride. Now I'll destroy your planet." Ryan leaned closer to the comm. "Funny, I was thinking the same thing." The signal cut, and the battle began. The alien fleet fired first, hundreds of plasma torpedoes screaming toward Earth's ships. The human vessels moved like predators through fire, each one a blade of light. The Horizon rolled and dived between explosions, counterfiring with rail cannons that tore through enemy hulls. But the aliens had numbers. Wave after wave of fighters descended like metal locusts. Every hit shook the horizon, sending sparks flying across the bridge. The crew held steady, fear in their eyes but determination in their hearts. Ryan looked down at the honey badger. Time to scare some gods. He opened a control panel and pressed a code sequence. A small chamber opened beside the bridge, a launch pod designed for infiltration drones. The honey badger climbed in, teeth bared, metal harness clicking into place. His officer's voice wavered. "Sir, that's a live creature." Ryan smiled faintly. "It's more effective than any missile." He pressed launch. The pod shot out like a comet, cutting through the battlefield. Enemy scanners picked it up as a small debris fragment until it landed on the hull of Krathos's flagship. The impact barely registered, but inside, alarms began to sound. The honey badger crawled out of the cracked pod, claws sparking against steel. It sniffed the air, eyes glowing with reflected fire. Then it began to dig. The creature tore through armor plating, slipped through vents, and vanished into the ship's inner decks. Guards heard movement but never saw it. The lights flickered. One by one, systems went offline. On the bridge, Krathos snarled. "Report! Something breached the hull!" one of his officers shouted. "Small, unknown life form." Krathos's voice dropped low. "Find it. Kill it!" But by the time the soldiers reached the reactor level, it was too late. The honey badger stood before the power core, growling softly as it clawed at the energy conduits. The alien soldiers fired, but plasma bolts only made it angrier. It lunged, tearing weapons apart, smashing panels, shredding wires. Sparks flew like lightning around its furious form. Krathos realized the truth too late. He turned toward his helm and roared, "Evacuate the reactor sector now!" The honey badger bit into the main conduit. The reactor screamed. From the horizon, Rian watched as the serpent-shaped warship exploded in a silent bloom of blue fire. Shockwaves rippled across the stars. One by one, smaller ships lost formation, panicking without their leader. The crew cheered. Ryan didn't. He stood still, eyes fixed on the fading light of the explosion. He whispered, "You did good, buddy." Seconds later, the comm crackled. A faint growl echoed back, a sound only Ryan could understand. The honey badger wasn't dead. Somehow, it had survived inside the wreckage. "Prepare a retrieval team," Ryan ordered. "We're not leaving him behind." As his ship turned toward the drifting remains of Krathos's flagship, deep inside that shattered wreck, a small shape moved through smoke and flame, still alive, still defiant, still Earth's fury made flesh, and far away, across the galactic communication grid, one message spread faster than light. The human's beast destroyed a warlord. The galaxy had mocked humanity once. Now it whispered their name with fear. Smoke hung over the battlefield like a dying storm. Wreckage from alien ships drifted across the black sky, glowing faintly as sunlight touched the fragments. The once mighty fleet of Warlord Krathos was gone, reduced to ash and silence. Aboard the USS Horizon, Captain Rian Holt stood by the viewing glass, eyes locked on the remains of the alien flagship. His crew moved quietly around him, voices low, as if afraid to disturb the ghosts floating outside. "Sir," his officer said softly, "we found life signs in the debris field." Ryan's hand tightened on the console. "Show me." On the holographic display, a blinking signal pulsed inside the twisted hull of the enemy ship. It was faint, erratic, but alive. "Launch recovery drones," Ryan ordered. "Bring him home." Minutes later, the retrieval bay hissed open. Steam rolled out as the drones landed, dragging a half-melted pod through the doors. The air inside smelled like burnt metal and ozone. When the hatch opened, a growl rumbled from within. The honey badger stepped out, limping, fur scorched, one eye half closed, but still alive. The crew backed away instinctively. Even battered, the creature carried the same unbreakable energy that had destroyed a warlord. Ryan knelt, smiling for the first time in days. "You never quit, do you?" The honey badger only grunted and sat down, glaring at the recovery team as if daring anyone to touch it. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread faster than any official report could control. Every colony, every outpost, every planet heard the story. The alien warlord unleashed a serpent. The human brought a honey badger that broke the arena. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, the elite species gathered in fear and confusion. Their voices clashed like thunder. "This is unacceptable!" one shouted. "Humans used a biological weapon." "That was no weapon," another replied coldly. "That was nature." The Chancellor silenced them with a gesture. Regardless of what it was, one thing is clear. Earth is not to be underestimated again. Meanwhile, Ryan's ship entered orbit above a neutral colony for repairs. Everywhere they landed, crowds gathered just to glimpse the human and his beast. Children whispered stories of the honey badger that killed a serpent. Alien soldiers looked away when Ryan passed them in the corridor. Even hardened mercenaries avoided eye contact with the little creature that had rewritten galactic law. Late one night, Ryan stood on the observation deck, looking down at the sleeping world below. The honey badger lay at his feet, resting at last. "They're afraid of us now," Ryan said quietly. His second officer, standing nearby, nodded. "Maybe that's what we needed, sir. Fear." Ryan shook his head. "Fear turns into hate, and hate turns into war." He looked at the stars, so many, so cold, so full of eyes watching them now. He knew the galaxy wouldn't forget what happened, but he also knew Kratos wasn't gone. Somewhere out there, in the deep dark between systems, Warlord Kratos was rebuilding. His hatred was fuel, his wounds were fire, and next time, he wouldn't just bring a serpent. He would bring armies. Ryan rested a hand on the honey badger's back. "If he comes again," he whispered, "we'll be ready." The honey badger's eyes opened, gleaming faintly in the low light, calm, fierce, unbroken. Outside, the galaxy turned slowly, waiting for the next spark. The galaxy had gone quiet, too quiet. Months passed since the Battle of Varex 9, yet the silence felt wrong, like the pause before a storm. Captain Ryan Holt had seen this kind of silence before. It wasn't peace. It was preparation. From the bridge of the USS Horizon, he watched the stars shimmer like distant sparks. His honey badger slept curled near his boots, healed now, stronger than before. The crew had begun calling it Vrax, after the world it had saved. The name stuck. A transmission broke the quiet. Static, then a voice. Low, growling, familiar. "Human, did you think I would die so easily?" Ryan froze. The crew fell silent. On the main screen, the image resolved into the scarred face of Warlord Kratos. Half his armor was gone, replaced by grafted machinery. His left eye glowed red, mechanical and cold. "I have rebuilt my fleet," Kratos hissed. "And this time I'm coming for Earth." The transmission ended. Sensors screamed with warnings. Across the void, dozens of crimson signatures appeared. Ships, thousands of them, moving fast. Ryan exhaled slowly. "So it begins again." He turned to his crew. "Sound the alert. Call the defense grid. Tell command, this time we finish it. Within hours, Earth's fleet assembled." Human ships rose from the dark side of the moon like metal giants. Carriers, destroyers, orbital cannons, everything humanity had. And at the center of it all stood the Horizon, with Rian and Vrax ready for war. When Kratos' fleet emerged from hyperspace, the stars themselves seemed to burn. His flagship, larger than any before, loomed at the front, shaped like a colossal serpent forged from black steel. Its weapon ports glowed crimson. Kratos' voice thundered across the comms. "Let this galaxy see your final breath, human." Ryan smiled faintly. "Funny. I was about to say the same thing." The sky erupted. Beams of plasma and bursts of railgun fire tore through space. Ship after ship exploded in burning silence. Human pilots fought like wolves, outnumbered but fearless. Every alien vessel destroyed sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks. But Kratos' flagship pushed forward, shrugging off damage like an unkillable beast. Its serpent head opened, revealing a massive cannon charging with red energy, the power to destroy entire cities in a single blast. Ryan looked down at Vrax. "All right, buddy. Time for your last trick." He opened the same drone pod as before. Vrax climbed in, eyes blazing with primal focus. The pod launched, streaking toward the heart of the Serpent ship through the chaos. Enemy fire tried to stop it, missiles, beams, debris, but nothing hit. It moved like a promise of vengeance. The honey badger landed hard, claws scraping metal. Alarms screamed. Soldiers rushed, shouting in panic. But they never stood a chance. Vrax ripped through them. Unstoppable. A blur of rage and willpower. On the horizon, Ryan guided the attack remotely, watching through drone feeds as Vrax tore deeper into the ship. "Go for the reactor," he whispered. Deep inside the enemy flagship, Vrax reached the core chamber, a pulsating heart of red light. Kratos appeared there, towering above the reactor, his cybernetic limbs dripping with power. "So the beast returns," he growled. Vrax bared its teeth. The air between them trembled. Krathos swung his plasma blade. Vrax darted under it, bit his arm, and tore through the metal. Sparks and blood sprayed across the walls. Krathos roared, slamming the creature into the floor, but it clawed back to its feet. It wasn't fighting for orders. It was fighting for Ryan. For Earth. Vrax lunged again, clamping its jaws on the reactor cables. Krathos swung down, but too late. The energy core ruptured. Light consumed the chamber. From space, Ryan saw it, the Serpent flagship blooming into a massive sphere of fire. The explosion swallowed Krathos's fleet in seconds. The silence that followed was total. The Warlord was gone. Ryan stood motionless, staring at the wreckage drifting across the stars. "Goodbye, buddy," he whispered. "You did it!" But then, through the static of broken comms, a faint growl came. Faint but real. Ryan blinked, stunned. "You're alive?" The signal strengthened. A small escape pod, half burnt, was drifting toward the horizon. Inside it, Vrax lay exhausted, covered in soot, but breathing. When the pod opened, the creature lifted its head and snarled weakly. The crew erupted in cheers. Ryan knelt, voice shaking with relief. "You just don't die, do you?" He looked out the window one last time. The galaxy was quiet again, but different now. No one would mock humanity again. Not after this. The legend of the honey badger would travel farther than any warship, told in whispers across alien worlds as a warning. Never challenge Earth. Never test the human spirit. And never ever underestimate the beast that broke the arena.